Hey there, YouTubers and collectors. This is Salvador Los Angeles, and I'm in Studio City, California. And today we're going to be meeting a local collector by the name of Wacky Wally. He lives in Wallywood. This guy has an amazing collection of movie and comic book memorabilia, as well as vintage toys. Wait till you see this guy's collection.
Hey,
Wacky
Sal,
Wally!
Come on in. Come on
wow.
in. Yeah, good to see you. How are you?
Good to meet you,
yeah,
man.
Good to have you here.
Roxy is actually a relative of Lassie.
She is. She's from the bloodline.
Lassie. You're a professional voiceover actor.
I am.
Do you think that has an advantage? Like, are you privy to certain collections? Maybe people will only sell to you. Maybe they don't put it on eBay, but they sell it to you since you're in the industry?
There is an advantage to that because I'm so visual on the web, on the internet. On my website, wallyontheweb.com, I do features about my specific aspects of my collection. A lot of people know that I'm the foremost Andy Kaufman collector in the world. Here we go, right here.
Hello, here's Andy Kaufman.
That costume right there is the one that he wore on Saturday Night Live, the very first episode, when he did this song, Mighty Mouse.
Here I come to save the day. That means that Mighty Mouse is on.
Remember that?
I remember that.
That's his actual costume. He would wear that. That became his trademark, as you can see in the photos there. He wore it a lot. Remember the movie Heartbeats from the early 80s, about 1981? Stan Winston, I think, was up for an Oscar for this film for the makeup. Andy Kaufman played Valcon 17485. This is the Stan Winston created puppet head that was used in a scene in the movie. It's his Andy's original bow tie.
What is it with you and Andy Kaufman?
I've loved Andy Kaufman ever since I was about 15, and I first saw him on a show on television called Catch a Rising Star. And he came out, and he was like, I want to do for you some imitations. I want to imitate for you Don Rickle. You hacky puck. And he was like this. His imitations were horrible. Yes. And I thought, oh, this poor guy. And my mom... My mom goes, his imitations aren't worth a sheet. Right around the time Monsters, Inc. came out, Disney and I believe a company called Gentle Giant made a bunch of these life-size Mike and Sully figures.
How has your collecting affected your relationships? Surely partners aren't going for stuff like this.
All of Wally's dollies are totally down with all
Really?
This. Yep, they're all down with it. Otherwise, they don't get to come into the circle and play.
I've heard so many stories of people that have had problems with their significant others and their collecting habits.
Then they have the wrong significant others. So I remember setting up my bedroom when I was a kid like a museum. I would take all the stuff that I have. I was big into collecting puppets and different toys and things. And I would set it up around my room and then put little handwritten labels around it. And I would make tickets. And I would give my sisters tickets for admission. And then they'd come into my room and tour my room and look at my collection.
Nerd, geek, dork. Do you consider yourself a nerd, geek, or dork?
Proudly all three. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just, the geek is chic.
Do you hit the cons and conventions? Are you a regular attendee?
I do, and as my career started to take off in voiceover, and people were actually asking me to sign stuff, which I'm always happy to do, I would also show up to these shows and get in line to have, stuff signed by the people that I like. And I would be in line with people who had previously asked me for my signature. And they're like, what are you doing here? I'm like, well, I'm a fan of Adam West, too. Yeah. I've known Adam since 1980. I met Adam in Sioux Falls, South Dakota when I was a radio DJ. He came to the World of Wheels show dressed as Batman, and I said, I've got to meet Adam West. So again, through the radio station, I had it all worked out, and I met Adam West, and we became friends, and we've known each other ever since. That's about, I think, 35 years ago, 36 years ago now. And we're both on Family Guy together from time to time. So sometimes we share a credit page together. It's Adam West, Wally Wingert, because they go alphabetically. So that's kind of cool.
Mannequins, action figures, dolls. What are the distinctions?
There's really not much of a distinction between an 8-inch Mego action figure that you can pose, or a 12-inch Mego action figure, or a Sideshow 12-inch action figure, or a Majestic or any of these other ones, or a 6-foot-tall action figure, which can move, and you can put him in all sorts of other action poses.
What did Elvis think of Andy Kaufman imitating him?
He loved it.
Really?
Apparently, when Andy was wrestling in Memphis, Tennessee with Jerry Lawler, the story is that he and Bob Zamuda, his writing partner, were visiting Graceland, doing a Graceland tour. And, of course, Elvis had passed away several years before that, and one of the attendants at Graceland said, Mr. Kaufman, come here, I want to show you something. So they took him upstairs where no one is allowed to go in Graceland, into Elvis's bedroom. And everything's untouched, apparently, well, at least it was at the time, just the way Elvis left it. And they opened the cabinet doors to his television and his video player. And there were some videotapes there. And in Elvis's handwriting, this is the legend, true or not, you never know with Andy what's true and what's not, in Elvis's handwriting on a spine, a label spine of a VHS tape, Andy Kaufman as me. This is my concert ticket. When I saw Elvis on June 22nd, 1977, 2 months before he died, I actually took that picture.
Wow.
So that's kind of a cool thing. I was lucky enough to actually see Elvis in concert 2 months before he passed away. That jacket right there was worn by Joe Esposito, who was Elvis's road manager, signed on the inside by Joe Esposito. The one on the left is from a show called Mannix, starring Mike Connors. The navy blue one belonged to Jack Lord, who was Steve McGarrett in the original Hawaii Five-0. Also a business card and a ID card and a badge that he had in his possession when he passed away. And then that jacket over there was the one worn by David Soul in the Starsky & Hutch movie in 2004. The Ant-Man helmet was made by a fan who does a lot of cosplay stuff, and I saw the helmet somewhere, and I said, I gotta have one of those. I was the voice of Ant-Man in the Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes cartoon a few years back, and I've always loved that style of Ant-Man. So I said, well, I have to have an Ant-Man bust. And then next to it is the blue Psycho Ranger helmet, again fan-made from the Power Rangers. I was the voice of the blue Psycho Ranger. And then to the right of that was a gift from makeup artist Kenny Myers, who did makeup on a ton of films. But early in the, late in the 80s, I think around 1987 when I first moved out here, he did a movie called Return of the Living Dead 2, which was one of the first jobs I had when I came out here in 1987, was playing a zombie. And I remember the mask that they gave me as the zombie was that one. And I remember specifically because of its resemblance to Burt Reynolds.
Even though you have a dog and a cat, your place is incredibly clean.
Well, thank you. I try and stay ahead of that as best as possible, even though it is a very difficult task sometimes because look at that hairy beast laying there. I mean, she's just all nothing but hair. Getting the dust off of the platform that the figures are standing on is not an easy task without knocking them over. Now, they're all earthquake-proofed and they're all stabilized, but still they're posed a certain way that I like them, and if I start digging around in there to try and clean it, it's going to be kind of difficult. So I have a long stick with some paper towels that I rubber band to the end, and as far as cleaning the actual, and then I'll take a moist paper towel to the tops of the action figures as well, and try and keep them as dust-free as possible. Because I go to people's houses to see their collection, and if they don't have it encased in glass or whatever, sometimes they get really dusty. If you have a 2016 BMW, everybody kind of can agree on what that's worth.
Yeah.
There's a blue book value. There's really no, I mean, one guy would pay something for an Elvis Joe Esposito jacket that another guy wouldn't pay.
Yeah.
So there's really no market value for that kind of stuff beyond of what people will just pay. I guess you could probably go on eBay and see what some of the stuff is going, but some of these things are one of a kind. I mean, that Andy Kaufman thing is priceless because that was his only costume like that he ever wore. That was the jacket that he wore. There were no duplicates.
And does insurance pay market value or purchase price?
Hopefully I'll never have to find out. His imitations aren't worth a sheet.